So, hey everyone, Unofficial Therapy, Wahida, one of two.
This is Fuza.
Now,
Hey,
Fuza, we have a special guest today.
We sure do.
Shice, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Shice Bubs, co-founder of the Smokers Club, cannabis activist. You already know what it is.
Co-founder of the Smokers Club. Wow. That says a lot.
Talk to us about the Smokers Club.
Well, it's a
Tell
club,
us what it is.
It's a club where we smoke at. Let me stop. The Smokers Club is a national touring company, merchandise company, and now festival company that we've been doing for over 10 years now.
That's amazing.
We're going into our 11th year doing it.
Now, I know you're located in like different locations throughout the United States. Tell us about that.
Smokers Club is basically founded by myself, Smoke Dizza, and Johnny Shipes. We're the owners of the Smokers Club also. You know, we're all from New York, born and raised. So we're native New Yorkers with our brand. But the Smokers Club, like I said, it's a national touring brand. So we've gone to, 35 states, 7 years in a row in the last 10 years.
That's amazing.
So our brand is, national.
Yeah.
We've done business in California for a while in the last 2 years.
That's what I was very interested in you mentioning, because funny story, my friend tells me, oh, I'm going to go to this festival, and it's in LA. And I'm like, yeah, what festival? What's the name? And they're like,
The Smokers Fest.
the Smokers Fest. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let me send him a little message right now, because I remember when this was a baby in its infancy stage. And now it's this huge gathering of all these human beings who enjoy
Indulging.
Cannabis and music.
Cannabis and music.
They love the whole lifestyle. It's like a conglomerate of things. It's not just the weed. It's the whole energy and vibe and frequency that, the Smokers Club embodies to our fans,
And talk to us about the last 10 years and the transition of perception of marijuana use to now, and how the laws have been changing and how people have been coming to information you already knew. But even the activism part of it and the negative connotation that, whether it's government, whether it's anti-drug campaigns, have really demonized the use of marijuana, and we're living in the transition.
Correct.
Right? I mean, 2020 got legalized in New York for recreational use. Talk to us about that transition over time.
Well, the transition, and from my experience, started, a while back for me. It started basically like, I would say 21 years ago.
Okay.
In 2020, 22 years ago.
22 years ago.
2020, right? It was
2000.
2000, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. That's how fast it went. Yeah. So in 2000, I had this, it was like California's legal.
Yeah.
There was like all these legal conversations about cannabis, and I was like,
yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
I was like, it's gonna be legal one day. And I started pushing like the boundaries with cannabis as far as the lifestyle, and started doing music and stuff like that. And I did music for a while, influenced by cannabis. Did it for 10 years, had a company called Purple City, affiliated to Diplomats. I did that for a while on an independent level. Sign artists. We had sign artists, and it was a real record label. It wasn't just like people be like, I got a record label. And it's not funded or anything like that.
It was totally funded.
Yeah, it was totally funded.
Making a lot of noise.
We had distribution through Koch Records at the time. And by me being able to take cannabis and do music and do these ventures, I was able to see a bigger vision for cannabis from early on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in 2010, after I finished my obligations as doing the record label, I kind of like stepped back, because at that time, the music was like, you could say kind of like a storefront for my lifestyle, which was cannabis. It was illegal. It was like demonized, like you were saying.
Yeah.
We were still going to jail for it, joints and blunts.
Yeah, just even petty
crumbs in your
misdemeanors.
pocket,
Yeah.
just roaches, all types of the goofiest shit ever. Like,
That you would get arrested for
like
just
a person who works and pays taxes, even if you don't pay taxes, just people, civilians
Yeah.
that are non-threatening,
Yeah.
are being in. I wouldn't say in prisons because it's not in prison, but are being put in jail with people who are, committing real crimes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it impacted, I would say, the black and brown community much more than it did others.
Right. Everything impacts us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Harder.
So in 2010, I kind of, California started becoming more legal, right? And in '09, it's crazy because when I went to California, I met Burner, right? And as far as like, in music, I was known for weed, but I saw a different vision at that point for where weed was actually going to go.
you wanted to expand.
It wasn't that I wanted to expand, because if I really wanted to expand on that level, I would have moved to California.
Okay.
So I didn't want to do that because I wanted to stay patient for New York. You understand what I'm
Okay.
saying? I wanted to stay
Interesting.
patient for New York and the legacy I was going to create for myself. Because me being a hustler, one of the things that I learned in hustling, and I've been outside doing that for 30 years, is that consistency gives you your street cred. You know what I'm saying? If you could be outside, if you can go to jail and still be outside. There's just a lot of, street ethics that are unethical to people who want to live a good life.
Yeah.
But in that world, it's a lot of things that we have to be accepted, you know what I'm saying, as being demonized.
Because
Like,
what's the alternative?
there was no alternative.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say there wasn't an alternative. But when you're in the pursuit of fast money
Yeah.
and things of that nature, because that's what it ultimately was. It wasn't like I didn't have other opportunities. I just didn't use my energy for those opportunities. I used them for fast money because I knew that I wanted to run business. I wanted to run my own shit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to work for somebody and get paid, and like I just had a different vision for like how I see myself making money. You know what I'm saying?
Smoggle energy.
Yeah, and I've been, since I was a kid, my mother, her parents passed away when she was young. So she always, even though she was taking care of our family members, she always was a go-getter to make her own money and take care of her own self.
And
know
you
what I'm saying?
and that was just passed on to you.
Yeah, and she came from Louisiana, so leaving her small town in Louisiana to come to New York is a big step.
That is massive.
Yeah. And then she met my father, who's from Trinidad, in the same pursuit as she was. And I guess that's where they saw eye to eye, coming from two different cultures.
Oh, yeah.
Her being Black American and my father being Indian Trinidadian. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and then I'm the protege of their ambitions in New York. And then here I am, the blackest, the darkest in the room. You dig what I'm saying?
I love it.
It's
You feel me?
beautiful.
But that tells you a lot about the process and the journey, because a lot of times, I saw something recently where somebody was talking about, you hustle, you work so hard, and a lot of times people who do it mistakenly do it for the end goal and don't do it for the process.
That's
Right.
right.
And when you think about the longevity of your time in this business, and even like taking legislation changes from other states and knowing that it's going to come to New York and having the patience, because you could have moved to California.
Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah.
And
Even back then, I used to be like, if I move to Cali right now, I'll take over Cali right now.
Yeah.
I would take over because my personality is too big.
yeah,
And I'm too cultural. And, the way the migration from the West Indies happened in the United States, it didn't migrate to California like that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
It was primarily New York and
It was like Texas.
yeah.
It was like Texas and New York. In real time.
Yep. This is
You
true.
know, Florida a little bit, but not so much, because that's not the vibe. That's more like a Latin vibe in Florida.
true.
West Indians go Texas. This is I guess in the 70s. I don't really remember, but I know that
So south or
family
northeast?
members, of Trinidad would be like Texas, migration to New York, migration to Canada.
Yeah, those were the options. Yeah.
Three-stop play. And when you came to New York, it was either Brooklyn, but that was more like Jamaican culture and stuff like that. And then the Bronx was another hub for the whole West Indian culture. You know what I'm saying? My mother happened to work for Columbia University, so I ended up in Manhattan,
Yep.
in Harlem.
Shout out to Columbia.
You know what I'm saying? All my father's family they migrated to the Bronx.
Interesting.
You know, so I grew up in the Bronx too because that's where I spent a lot of time at. You know what I'm saying? So it gave me the official uptown culture.
Which was important.
Yeah.
That's how you got your
and
start.
then I grew up in a gentrified neighborhood in Harlem.
Correct.
So it was like I had all these different
Yeah.
cultural,
Influences.
economical situations going on that I'm witnessing from a neutral standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So even when I started hustling, my hustle was reminiscent of, you know, how I economically moved around even as a kid.
Did you see the disparity and set a goal for yourself
Of
when you
course I
see
did.
it in so many different?
Of course I
Yeah.
did. Off back.
Yeah.
I can't speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure that maybe, I don't know, you know, maybe sometimes I feel like an anomaly in the way that I think from the things that I've seen, you know, and when, you know, growing up and your parents send you on trips, right? Like overseas trips and stuff like that, that's to culture you,
For sure.
right? And I was able to be in that position where my parents sent me to Europe, they sent me to the West Indies, you know what I'm saying?
Traveling is so important.
South America,
Yeah.
California. I
Yeah.
went to Florida. I went to all the Disneylands as a kid in the 80s. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. That's
So-
amazing.
Yeah.
So we talk about how you have a different mindset, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because the people that you started with, some folks that you started with,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't like been able to like make that transition, but you have, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So how does that work? Like, what are like some tips for folks to be like, this is how you change things around? Like, what made you turn your love for music, for marijuana, and then here you are making money, you know,
Being an activist,
being an activist, just turning it all around
Being
to like
active.
being influential.
Being active. I'm not really an activist
Oh,
because
okay.
I don't have a mob with me. I don't have a bunch of like people like actually supporting the play because I feel like I'm an anomaly. So sometimes it's like they don't get it. They're like, how did he get here?
Right?
We don't get it. So it's hard for them to actually support as opposed to kind of be like, all right, he set the trend. Now we're going to copy and do our own thing. Or, you know, as a creator, there's this concept of, you know, you create and then that's how other people get their start.
We were just
just
talking about that.
Right,
And
so-
you know what I was telling her is when you create something and you're creating the blueprint, you're really building an infrastructure. So whoever comes after you, they have the opportunity to do so much better because they didn't have to do all the uplifting. And so they take what you did right, they build on it, then they avoid what you did wrong, and they avoid it, and then they bring their own
may
flair.
think you did wrong.
What they may think you did
Because in
wrong.
my experience, I've
Correct.
never been wrong. I've just been disappointed with the outcome.
understood. Oh,
You
I
know,
like that.
Under spiritual guidance. You understand what I'm
Edison,
saying?
is it Edison who says this? Saying, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And actually, that is progress because now you know that all these things that you tried before didn't work. So you know that the next thing you're trying may potentially work. You just need it one time to work. But it's true. And it's very important to have that mindset of not thinking that anything is a failure, that everything is part of the process. So whether it didn't work for what your goal was in the time, it's just a matter of you now redirecting.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you guys talk about like, I want to say a quote from Bob Marley,
Let's
which
go.
relates to our topic, right?
Uh-huh.
Mental health and marijuana and mental health. When you smoke the herb, it reveals you to yourself. Woo. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, if that's the case, I have, you know, I don't even know how to phrase it because it's not in any type of like religious form or concept, but I do have knowledge of self, of who I am and what I'm put here to be a vehicle for.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And how I want my my soul to live on. You know what I'm saying?
Beautiful.
Where I want my soul to be after even my vehicle, my vessel is gone. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just moving in those kind of vibrations and
Yes.
frequencies, you know?
Beautiful.
It's true, because this is just the human part
The human
of your
experience.
existence, the
Yeah.
human experience, and really focusing on the soul. That's deep. I love that.
I love that. Now another one, another quote.
Let's go.
Sativa, to change the things I can. Indica, to accept the things I can't. That's an unknown quote. We don't know who did that one.
That's
The first
probably
one
why
was-
indica puts you to sleep.
right?
Well, the interesting thing is, and that it's, I look at that as just like a haiku or poetry, because
Yeah.
in these days there really isn't indica and sativa anymore.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's
It's
talk about
really-
marijuana.
It's really hybrid dominant at
Okay.
this point, you know, to where genetics are. You know, I don't want to go too deep in it
Of course.
on the therapy on this type of situation, but you know, just know that, you know, where cannabis is today in genetics and the things that will make you go wow and woo, right, will primarily be hybrid.
Okay.
You know, there are indicas and sativas still that are around that maybe make up maybe 5% of the industry of cannabis smoke, right?
Okay.
So, you know, for a veteran smoker like myself, who's already tried, experimented, connoisseur those type of strains and flavors and cultivars and stuff like that, you know, my palate is it's like a mix of everything that's already, you know, it's hybrided. It's like mix of this is crossed with this and this and this, 3 crosses. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Are you in those like discussions when when because of your role within the business, when you're like fusing things together? Hey, we got a plan to put this and this, you know, however the genetic modification occurs.
To be honest, I like to play my role in marketing
Okay.
and strategy.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to those parts of the industry.
Now, have you visited like some?
Of course,
right?
I've been in facilities
What?
since conception. You know what I'm saying? But going back to, you know, a little further to when we were talking about the transition.
Okay.
In 2010, when I met Burner and I seen him doing the legal hustle with cannabis, I was like, all right, maybe one day soon it'll happen. I gotta pay more attention. You know what I'm saying? So whenever we would go on tour, we would always get invited to go to these facilities in Denver, Seattle. You know what I'm saying? So every year we're going into the facilities to the point where we learned which states have the best weed.
Which states have the best weed?
Just off of geography, though.
Okay, because of the
Not about
environment.
About the environment.
Okay.
Not about the quality of the weed.
Okay, so
Okay.
what's that?
I'm asking for some friends.
See, so like for instance, like Denver.
Okay.
In the beginning, we were wooed away because it was the first place where you can go to the dispensary and buy weed and go get a tour of the facility, and you're like, oh, you've never seen it before, so you're like, oh, this is the shit. Oh wow, yo, I got this weed. Ah da 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 da. But if you're not traveling and really on the move, then you don't really realize that once you get out that Denver altitude, that cannabis kind of like disintegrates.
Interesting. I did not know that.
You know, there's no water up there, so it's like they're pumping water. Every facility has water pumps to pump the water up to, because it's above sea level, so high.
Wow.
You know that the weed is so dry that you're
Wow.
like, what the hell?
Wow. I did not know that.
See, that's what I'm saying. Then in Seattle, it's moist up there, so the weed is, to me, in my experience, people from Seattle and Oregon, they can say whatever they want, but I'm telling you that the weed is greener, darker green.
Okay.
Just by natural, like if you're growing outdoor,
Okay.
your weed is going to be more forest-like
Interesting.
because that's what's up there, the big trees, and you know what I'm saying? That's what they're known for, Paul Bunyan shit. You know what I'm saying?
So it's that healthy,
Yeah,
easier to process
right.
weed. Like you don't need to really take care of it. You don't need to baby it too much. It just kind of does its own thing.
So as you know, the 2000s were going along, and we were doing these. We were starting to carve our lane smokers club and selling the lifestyle of cannabis. You know,
That's amazing.
Doing merch.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
we always, for years, we always smoke in clubs, right?
Yeah, totally.
We always smoke weed in clubs. You can't smoke in the streets, but you can smoke in a club,
Yeah, and they was doing it. 'Cause,
right?
Boy.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Every club, every.
I think you came on like a show and you was smoking.
Come
Like,
on.
so many times.
Be
Oh
happy,
my God.
you know, I'm being respectful today. You know what I'm saying?
And no, be whatever you want to be.
Be free. Be free.
We're not going to do that.
We
but-
curse on this show.
Yeah, but
Well,
I didn't
do.
want to light the weed up in here. But you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, when 2020 was approaching, in 2010, I came up with this epiphany that I had, right? Because I stopped doing music. Not stopped, but I kind of like,
Took a step back.
I redirected it
Okay.
to hosting for the tour. And instead of me breaking artists through doing albums, I was breaking them, like hosting them on stage and bringing them out and giving them a look. Like Shice Bub just brought me out on stage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Which was monumental.
You know, I started doing that, and I made a pact to myself. I was like, all right, weed, cannabis, not cannabis. It was weed. It was just weed. It wasn't no cannabis name. It was like, weed got you here, and weed is gonna get you to the promised land because that's your gift.
Yeah.
So I made a new 10-year pact with myself on a business program, and I hit the reset button in 2010 for my business venture. Right? I was like, I'm gonna focus back on strictly weed. And I'm going to let that be the vehicle to take me where I want to go. So we did these festivals. I'm hosting 35 cities every year, right? By the time 2020 started approaching, I started cleaning house. Like cutting the fat on everything that I felt was from the past. That was from like 2000 to 2010. Like I'm detaching from all of that bad luggage. It was like I was going through like a consciousness thing,
I love that.
right?
Which is needed.
It was dangerous at the time because
Okay.
I wasn't. This happened in 2012 when maybe it was a little later. Maybe it was 2013 when Capital Steez from Pro Era committed suicide,
Interesting.
right? But before he committed suicide, he was going through mental health issues, right? Right before he committed suicide, we used to have a lot of conversations about, you know, just spirituality and what we believe in. And he kept telling me about dimensions and all this shit. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't tapped into
At the time you're like,
conscious,
he's on some
dimensional
other shit.
consciousness,
Yeah.
huh?
You're like, he's on some other shit.
Yeah, but you know, I was searching too, because I was like tapping into like
Higher meaning.
I was tapping into masonry.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And because I was like on this like mission, like I'm gonna go for the gusto. So I need to tap into what built this country. I wasn't just doing it on some like religious consciousness.
Yeah.
I was doing it on some ultimate business move where it's like
The foundation
the
for
Masons,
everything.
the Freemasons built this country.
That's right.
So I wanted to be,
some degree.
at that time, I thought I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
But then when I got more involved, I realized the information was biblical.
I see.
And it wasn't about just Freemasonry. It was about believing in something higher than yourself.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Which is what human existence is all about.
yeah, and also giving yourself that guideline for your morality. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I realized that, it kind of made me a 33rd degree in my own mind. Because when I was in this board meeting with these Masons, you know, I felt like I knew what they knew and more just because I already knew the word of God growing up. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. So it was like instilled in me, like it was forced in me. And I was young. I was like the golden child of that situation because I was giving talks since like 6 years old, reading and, you know, on a stage in front of hundreds of people. You dig what I'm saying? So that gave me insight on a lot of things. Like even in school, I felt like I wasn't a good student in school because I didn't pay attention because I was bored, you know, but when it came end of the year and you had to take a state exam,
You make sure.
I didn't make sure shit. I just ended up in the 90th percentile
There you
every
go.
time. And what I realized, and even after I got to high school and I took my SATs and I scored 1350 on my SATs,
That's
right?
amazing.
But I wasn't even going to school.
I was one of those kids too, though. I'm not gonna lie. My friends used to say the same thing. Like, how come you come to school, you cut all the time, and then you just show up and you pass the test? How do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right? And what I realized was, all the way back then, was that my Bible knowledge of right and wrong was what was making me be able to answer the questions as far as problem solving and logic and what's right and wrong as far as a problem solving question. Because certain things, I'm like, that's just not right.
Interesting.
Doesn't even add up.
And when you think about it, like in test taking, the process of elimination is really your best bet.
It's all. She said it
She
right
hit
there.
it right on the head. Yeah,
it is. I mean,
Process
because
of elimination.
They tell you that.
Yeah,
If you don't know the answer, circle the middle one.
that's right.
It's instructions.
Just look
that
at them
you
and
mu-
say,
I don't
is
want
this
to. I don't want to
logical?
go into that.
Is
though.
A logical? You're like, nah.
Because that's
B
that's
logical, no.
mental health right
Is
there.
C
Yeah.
logical?
Yeah.
No.
That's from a kid, right?
Like, if you don't understand it, because standardized tests are something that they don't fit everybody's learning
No,
methods.
absolutely not.
They don't, and it's
Absolutely not.
it's a very unfair thing to do to children. But I mean, it is what it is. There's
I didn't look at myself as a child. I'm not gonna lie to you. I
Yeah.
always looked at myself as grown, I wanted a mustache since I was 8 years old. I wanted a beard.
Well,
since
you got
12.
enough now.
I'm just saying, like I was eager to be a man from a young age
and what caused that? What causes?
because my father was an alpha male.
Mm.
He was like he took care of many. He took care of his household, our household. He took care of his brothers and sisters that needed the help. A lot of them was good in their own situations too. You know what I'm saying? But the ones that needed help, he was there for.
That's right.
You know what
Was
I'm
there a
saying?
pressure to grow up fast because you wanted to? Maybe you looked up to your father, or maybe you felt like this is a lot for him. Maybe I could help him.
No, never. He
Okay.
was so alpha that me having to take care of my sisters or my mother was never even on my fucking mind.
But you were just
Ever in life.
Ever.
you were
That's
just
amazing.
modeling behavior, though. You saw that he was a leader, so you became one.
Well, the thing is, no. But the thing is, like I said, about, having this religious background, the information that I learned wasn't just like for kids.
Yeah.
Information of the truth was from infant to the oldest person alive.
Interesting.
You dig what I'm saying? So at a young age, it made me judge people. I don't care who you are. You could be 30 years old. As an 8-year-old, I will judge you and pass judgment on you quick under the morality code that's instilled in me. That
Yeah.
I know that's right and wrong.
Interesting.
You can't even finesse on me without me. That's why my name is Shice, because I'm a Shice detector. I know right and wrong. And I know when someone's trying to pull something. I could sense it easy. That's
And-
why I scored so high.
And that protected you in many ways,
All
too.
the way.
Yeah.
My spirituality protected me all the way. I can reveal that now because I'm here now. And while I was doing it, it was kind of like between me and my angels.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's why I said I know who I am, because I already know what I've been dealing with this whole time.
That's beautiful.
I want to circle back to earlier you'd started telling us about your friend talking to you about spirituality at the time before his passing.
Yeah.
You didn't want to lose that.
So when he started talking to me about that and he passed, because one of the last things I told him right before he passed was that I not told him, but one of the last things that I expressed to him was that, like, I'm like, yo, because I started researching consciousness and I became intrigued with it. It like broke me out of masonry and sent me into consciousness, right? And then when he died, and I told him, I said, yo, bro, you don't have to perish yourself to take your brothers to the next level.
Interesting.
Because before he passed, one of the things he said, it was that, he felt that some of his crew members were stuck in the third dimension and that he was in the fifth, and for them to go to the next dimension, he had to sacrifice himself so they can all be good, right?
Ooh, that is heavy.
Right? And then he did it, And no shit, I shit you not. All of our, well, the ones I guess who paid attention, consciousness elevated. Mine's did though, 1,000%, because I went from holding third dimensional things, which is like, you know, things you learn, things you have bottled up, anger, all of these goofy things that we've been brainwashed into believing. You know what I'm saying? I just bottled it up and put it on the shelf, right? And I went into the fourth dimension of transitioning into manifestation, which was me thinking about something. Manifestation to me is like prayer. You know what I'm saying? And what I realized is that my manifestation levels just by myself are so high because I can actually think about something and it happens immediately.
Amen.
No, immediately. And I don't want to sound like it's magic or anything like that.
I believe you 100%.
Because it's not magic. And guess what? I've done it instantaneously to the point where I don't do it instantaneously anymore. Like I don't use my manifestation powers to instantly manifest anything anymore.
Because you know how powerful they are.
What I do is I manifest time. So I manifest time to kind of like have an experience instead of having like this instant gratification thing
100%.
that I've been able to like consciously acquire.
Now, when you're in this mode, marijuana is a part of that.
1,000%. Because what marijuana does is it reminds me that the only thing that has power over me is something higher than me. Feel me?
Now, is it through a mental focus state that it puts you in to be able to have that reminder and consistency? Or is it more the zone you get in when you smoke is a deeper zone than when you're not, when you don't?
It's my lack of, being oppressed by the brainwash that's been plagued upon us.
Tell me about that.
It's just, being the darkest person in the room most of my life. You know what I'm saying? And not even in a purposeful way, but more of a systematic way.
Okay.
I've been always, the victim. But I don't say victim because I've never felt victimized because I knew that I could be perceived as that. So I always kind of left that like, how you think I'm victimized, but I'm victimizing you. Don't ever play with me because I'm in tune. I'm in tune with something bigger. So it's just like cannabis. Like you can have $1 billion company, but can you connect? You can supply all you want. People ain't gonna like that shit.
True.
This is very, very true.
I've seen it.
That's
already.
what takes one person and takes them forward and is a barrier for others, right? Some people just excel because of that ability.
Mm-hmm. And with cannabis, sometimes like if I'm like, say I'm not smoking, right? You wouldn't even like me if I wasn't smoking because I could become very prude and rude because I'm gonna deal with every single thing in front of me right then, even if it was a mistake. Versus me saying, they just tripping.
When
I'm high, it's like,
yes.
man, they just tripping.
So you let things go.
All the time.
So now we talk about marijuana use.
All the time.
We talk about marijuana use. Marijuana is a interesting business to go into, right? And that is because marijuana is the number one or most commonly used drug in the United States, right? And
Is it?
yeah, that's what they
what's up.
say, right?
Nice, I heard you.
More people. Well,
I hope it is because everything else has some way worse effects.
This
Because
is
I mean,
true.
what is it? Opioids?
Opioids.
Amphetamines? I mean, what's next? What's the other thing?
Right? Alcohol.
Yeah.
So that so now when people talk about, when psychiatry folks talk about marijuana, sometimes they talk about how like it is beneficial, right? Folks mention that it helps with anxiety, depression. It helps them go to sleep. It helps them eat, right? So there's all these medicinal purposes that marijuana is able to, relieve a lot of like symptoms that we experience as human beings. during the pandemic, some folks couldn't sleep, or they were so anxious, and marijuana was used at that time to really like calm them down. Folks that didn't want to take like psychotropic meds.
Yeah.
So they decided, hey, I'm just going to smoke and go to sleep, right?
I think there's statistics that say that marijuana use increased dramatically
Absolutely.
during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that points to the success of your business, right? That so many people use this as a form of therapy.
Well, I think my business and, Smokers Club is people looking at our company and our movement as being like, oh, I see the business potential in it.
Of course.
Outside of just cannabis itself or weed itself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's actually a very good platform because of all the legal blocks that have been there. I don't think people, even from our communities, understand the opportunity that there is. So you providing that kind of platform and access to information does drive people to at least invest in something that they would have otherwise not had success in, especially because of all the red tape around it that has been plaguing this industry for a very long time.
Now, Shice, when you first started using marijuana, right? How old were you?
In high school.
In high school. Tell us about your first experience.
My first experience was that all my friends smoked weed, and I was just like, all right, I got to stop being prude and judging these crackheads.
What? It was that bad? Oh my God.
Nah, because I'm telling you, I was judging from a
I
young
know.
age. So
That's what religion
and I
will
had
do to you.
Right, and I had a job. Like I was working. I was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People thought I sold drugs because I had a job and I worked in the Gap. So I worked on the floor. I was style. I used to style the
mannequins.
The mannequins. You know what I'm
Nice.
saying?
Nice.
So I always had a lot of clothes, and I was like I'm West Indian, so I'm like a fake booster. I was like stealing everything out that shit at the same time. So I had an overload of clothes. You know what I'm saying?
He was on point.
Yeah, and all my homies smoke weed, and I was just like, I would say like the last one.
Okay.
But I always had the liquor. Cause my pop's West Indian, so rum, Bacardi was everywhere. Like it was just bottles everywhere. So I got quarter bottles, half of bottles. I'm bringing them shits to school. My boys got the weed. I got the liquor. Next thing you know, I'm smoking.
That changes you though.
That changes
you.
The weed changed me because I was athletic at the time, and once I started smoking, I had never been winded before. And then after I started smoking, I was like practicing, and we was like warming up and shit. And I was like, yo, I'm winded. I've never been winded in my life. The weed got me fucked up. But then I made a decision that day, the day I was winded, I said, what you gonna do? You gonna play sports or you gonna smoke weed? I said, man, fuck this sports shit, man. I ain't making no money out of this shit, man. Fuck is wrong with you? Is you dumb? You better curve this sports shit right now, nigga. And I swear every time I curve sports, I made mad money. Because sports is recreational, especially as a kid. And I was nice. You know what I mean?
What were you doing? And what was basketball?
So I play basketball, but that's not. That was easy to be like whatever. But I was playing tennis.
Oh.
So I was ranked. I was ranked nationally.
Okay.
I was ranked in the city. I was ranked in my borough. I was number 1 in Manhattan.
That's
I was number
crazy.
like 12 in the city.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Amazing.
And I had this thing of, playing tennis just to beat overprivileged children. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna leave it at that. And
interesting.
Because they used to look at me like, oh, he's from the projects, not knowing where I live at. They would judge me. So I was like, oh, word? You judging? Wrong person.
Yeah.
I went and took tennis lessons for free in the park.
Of course.
And I was just naturally gifted. So I just was so nice, and I would go beat these overprivileged children in front of their parents and all that, while I'm coming by myself, like to the park as a kid, like I'm a homeless kid, and I'm going crazy playing tennis. I was like a little young Arthur Ashe, and then I ended up in the black tennis facility with all the black young tennis stars and stuff like that, and that was our thing. You know what I'm saying? That was our thing to go to these tournaments and beat these overprivileged kids.
So you're playing tennis and then you give it up for marijuana.
I gave it up for weed.
Now that's crazy because when I was doing my research, it says that folks, like, when they start using marijuana, they tend to, like,
Drift off of all the...
Yes.
You know what we do? We cut the fat.
yeah, is it cutting the fat?
Yeah, it's cutting the fat. That shit was wasting my fucking time.
You think so?
Hell yeah. I needed to be focusing on getting some bread. I didn't need to be focusing on going to the park, playing tennis, compete. You know
And tennis is a very expensive
Competing.
sport
It
to
was-
even compete in.
Yes.
I mean, if you watch King Richard and you see how much it cost for him to put Venus and Serena into the platforms they ended up in.
Sis, it was so much economical, systematic racism involved that I knew then that there was no future in it for me.
Oh, long term.
Long term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
Understood.
was like, I was already touching bread.
Yeah.
So I was like, tennis? I was like, see, I was finessing because I figured out a couple things back then, which was I could pay for my ranking. I didn't actually have to beat. I could beat a couple people, but in the hood, you got to beat everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
So you knew where to
in a low
play.
level tournament. So the high level tournaments were like in the white rich neighborhoods. And you got to pay like $100 to get in this shit. But even if you lose, you get more points for losing than
In
you would
those
get for
neighborhoods.
winning some shit in the hood.
Ain't
Interesting.
that some shit?
So
Interesting.
me, I started playing in the shits over there, but I would get to like the quarterfinals. So my ranking shot all the way up. And they were like, I
were
was
impressed.
nice, but there were other black kids that were nicer than me.
Okay.
But they're like, yo, how you get ranked so high? I'm like, because y'all playing them little B and C level tournaments. I'm playing A tournaments, bro.
So now listen, we talk about decreased productivity.
Yeah.
Marijuana.
okay.
That's what it does. Decreases productivity and decreases motivation. So to some degree, it kind of did that for you.
It did, but it didn't because I was motivated in other realms. It wasn't about smoking weed. It wasn't about just the weed for me.
Yeah.
I was getting money. I wasn't even, weed was like at the bottom of my list of things that was going to generate bread for me
Okay.
in the beginning.
Okay.
But
It was,
as a teenager, your brain is still growing, right?
That's right.
So there's more impact to your brain if
Absolutely.
you start smoking weed as a teenager.
Absolutely.
Because of the pruning effect that happens to your mind, right?
That's right.
So there is that as well. And then also the effects of weed, I think, have been exaggerated quite a bit in media, but it does impact a lot. But there's also a thing about managing and controlling weed based on how it impacts you.
Okay.
There's people who will not smoke at all during the day. They will not touch a J, but at night, every night religiously will smoke. And then there's people who are functional smokers. Then there's non-functional smokers. From people that I know. Is that your experience as well? Do you know people who smoke and just become potatoes?
yeah,
He's like,
I
yeah.
do. To each their own. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a person who can smoke like casually.
Yeah.
I can't just smoke like on the weekends.
Yeah.
I wouldn't smoke at all. If I had to just smoke, I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to do it because, I'm way past anxieties, any of that, munchies. I'm way past any of that. Does it put me to sleep? Does it not put
Yeah.
me? I'm way past that. I went through all of those emotions long time ago.
Years ago.
Right? So I'm like a chain smoker in cannabis. And people be like, do you even get high? I'm like, every time.
I love it.
Every time I smoke, I get high because I understand, the effects of what's going on with me. Soon as I stop smoking is when I'm high. Like I could smoke 5-6 blunts back to back to back to back to back and just be functioning. When I put it down and I stop, that's when I'm like, I gotta go lay down for a minute. Smack.
So we talk about the fact that people use marijuana for depression.
1,000% because it makes you see, weed makes you like, if you smoke some good weed, smoking a good joint or blunt, right, is actually a 30-minute to 40-minute process. Okay? as far as rolling it, lighting it, and smoking it.
Yeah, that entire, which is for some people, that in and of itself
Ritual.
they enjoy. They love that
It's
ritual.
a ritual.
Not
Yes,
just
they
ritual,
love it.
but time killer.
Okay.
Time killer. Okay. So if you're
Interesting.
having an issue, right?
Yeah.
Or you're having a problem, and now you're about to roll up, you're not focusing on them issues.
You're focusing
You're
on
focusing on rolling
Rolling
that
up-
J.
you-
that's an interesting
You're
perspective.
focusing on rolling that J and smoking it. By the time you start smoking that shit, right? You might start thinking about your problems again. Okay. By the time you finish that shit, you're gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna roll up another one. And you're gonna forget about your fucking problems for another 20 to 30 minutes. The more you smoke, the more time you killed in thinking about your fucking problems. What do they say? Time heals, right?
Time does.
Right?
Amen.
So guess what? You haven't been mad for like 18 hours about some shit that you thought you was really so mad about. And now you realize you ain't been mad for 18 hours. And you're like, fuck that. Why the fuck was I actually mad about that shit? I'm bugging.
That's a great way to think
true.
about it.
So there's two things, right? There's that, and then there's also, there are things sometimes, like, for example, I have a very short temper. Not many people get to see it, but I can lose my shit and act. My friends call it Dracarys. They're like, oh, Dracarys came out, like from Game of Thrones, the dragons. But I will say, sometimes Dracarys is necessary. So I'm not saying like that short temper and that anger, but sometimes the juice it gives you to react to something is necessary in some instances. So does smoking take away the Dracarys that sometimes is necessary to deal with some things?
Growing up as someone who's been judging my whole life, and
Yeah.
sometimes when I was young, I could be a real like loud, big mouth and be like, just kind of give my opinion
Yeah.
when it's not asked upon,
Yeah.
out of anger and emotions of me just talking shit, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
So I learned from the prison system to kind of like, when I have those moments,
Just walk away.
to go in a private place. No, literally, like, and scream and vent in that place, and then reactivate in my surroundings again without anyone ever seeing that.
That's a lot of internal strength.
I'm saying no.
I like
but
that.
that's
You
a-
have to build
but
up
that's
to
a
that.
But that's a protection for yourself.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Because when you feel sometimes that you're being Drakarish, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You never know who you offend.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
No,
you-
it's absolutely
and
true.
You might be like, oh, I'm just in my space.
Yeah.
But you're getting judged by someone you don't even know. Like, I don't even want to deal with that shit. 'Cause
No,
they
that's
don't-
absolutely
because
true.
they don't know how to control themselves.
Oh,
They need to
definitely.
go smoke a blunt, like 2 or 3 of them, so they could chill out.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I would say, more times than not, it's unproductive
Because-
to breathe fire on others.
Because when you breathe fire, one thing
Yeah.
that happens when you
Yeah.
breathe fire is that it makes your blood pressure go up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes when you get angry, you get flustered in your words. You can't,
Can't really speak.
right? That's because your blood pressure is going up.
Yeah.
And that's not good. So the best thing to be is at peace with yourself.
That's right.
So you don't ever have to entertain when someone is being irrational or being,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because it could never be that serious.
You get more bees with honey.
Except for when you're lied to. That those lies and thefts are the things that make me the most angry. And I've already been able to accept, systematic shit like that, lies and shit like that. I don't even blame people for the lies that they commit. And that's like newfound shit that I've been going through since. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought that up. So, and this is this is not a processed thought. Like, so I may not sound intelligent saying it, but I have started to see a softer side to people lying to me. And not saying that, I was joking earlier, lie to me. No, but a lot of times think about like when you lie to someone, right? Everyone's lied before in their past. When you lie to someone, is it because you want to hurt them, or is it because you're afraid that the truth may be worse for them than you lying, and maybe it's harmless, right? So sometimes when people have lied to me, before I'd get really upset. And I think now I wonder, why is it that, what is it about this environment that you felt you could not come to me with what it really is? What is it about this environment? And I think there's something, for me, I always feel maybe there's something I need to change about this environment so that this person can feel safe telling me what it is. Now, theft, I can't deal with that, because now you don't have a morality. You don't have morals when you're stealing, But when it comes to lying, I've had a softer approach, and I don't know if that's a similar thing for you when you were talking about that, or for you it's just intolerable. I'm not going to do this.
In this journey, I've learned that people's spirituality, you can't give that to them.
Nope.
Yeah.
That has to be sought on their own. And, when people lie, they live in their own delusions of their own truths. You know what I'm saying? So.
Is it fear of what the outcome will be?
I don't know what it is. I cannot relate to
Yeah.
that. I don't relate to that part of that question.
That existence.
Because I don't move like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I deal with a totally different perspective on all of that.
It's interesting because that I feel the same way. I feel like because I was growing up, I came from a very religious background. My family, I think that's part of culture in certain places, so ingrained. Religion is so ingrained in you from the very beginning that lying or misleading is just not something I do or try to do. I mean, perhaps there's been times where to save myself, I might have did it, but I can remember those specific times.
Yeah.
For the most part, I like living in my truth.
How about
for
this?
sure.
However ugly that
Let me
might
tell
be.
you some crazy shit in the most malicious way I can say it. And I'm sorry, but
Say
a
it.
lot of times when you're dealing in the devil's playground, you're inclined to be bad.
But when you're not,
So what I've done a lot of times is, which is always fuck motherfuckers up, because motherfuckers expect you to lie. Okay? People, liars, the lying realm,
yeah, they love that.
the devil's den
Yeah.
is based on a lie, right? Okay? So what I've done for years is, and I guess it's me being like, liar, let me tell you what it really is. And I hit them with the truth.
Yeah.
Always. And the truth hurts more than a lie.
I agree.
So I guess I've been looked upon as like he think he's all that. You dig what I'm saying?
It's like they think you're sitting on a high horse.
That I'm sitting on a high
They
horse.
do.
Yeah.
But I'm not, though. I'm
You-
actually
yeah.
not.
It's a perception.
I'm just giving the truth of the matter.
But
Yeah.
you're so used to being lied to
Yeah.
that when you're hit with the truth, it's a problem. So I give
But
you.
guess what, though? Even though the truth is what it is, a lot of times I will still let a lie play out, though.
Okay.
Me too.
I'll let the whole scenario play out because that's the only way it's going to play out, because people systematically don't believe nothing else.
And what about when people?
You dig what I'm saying?
I've let lies play out where I shouldn't let them play out. But I let it play out, and then it's just like, at some point it starts to really eat at the person that they might even sell themselves and be like, all right, here's what happened.
Really?
And you're like, I knew. Yeah.
It's so sad because I feel like people lie to me all the time, but I don't care enough. So it's like, okay, you lie, you don't. It doesn't affect me.
Right.
It
really
You know
depends.
what I mean?
It depends to me on who the person is.
Yeah.
It depends on our relationship and our friendship and everything. If it's just an associate lying to me, I'm just like, all right, cool. That's your truth. That's what you want to believe. That's cool. The one thing I will not stand for is liars in the office. They get all the Dracarys, all of it. When I tell you I will breathe fire on them, I will. And it happened recently to me where a coworker lied that our leadership wanted me not off a project, but wanted me to play second in a project where I was the lead. And I believed her. I was so mad. I said, what did I do? Then I go to my boss and I'm talking to him and he goes, that conversation did not happen.
That's crazy.
And when I tell you I lost it. But I didn't breathe fire in the sense where I barked at her and yelled at her.
Yeah.
No, I did what anyone should do. I opened a HR case and I said, let's talk about this. Because we're not going to sit here and lie just because you're so intimidated by me being on here. But so there's moments where immediately you need to deal with it. But most times I do let it play out, and especially if I love someone very much. A lot of times I try to assess my environment and the environment that we have to say, you know, it's got to be hurting you to lie to me. And it's got to feel like it's the right thing to you right now based on my relationship with you, if it's someone that I'm very close to.
I like that.
And I try to find the softer side of how can I make it easier for you to approach me with what it is.
That's good. It's interesting. Yeah. I'm kind of speechless because I feel like perhaps it happens, but I just am never conscious of it. I'm like, if that's what it is, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that that's also like weird that you don't care enough. But I don't. Like a lot of the times, unless it's financially impacting me,
Yeah.
I really don't care. Like it could even be the man that I'm dealing with. Oh, you're lying? Okay, well, I'm going to leave you anyway. So
Sometimes you just gotta let shit play out because you don't even want to start that confrontation. You know they're lying, but you don't know what the truth is.
Yeah. Oh, so you kind of want.
You're like, I'm not even gonna go through this.
Yes.
I know this is a lie.
Yeah, I've been lied to tons of times. It's like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, but oh, well, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Some shit just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So, going back to like marijuana and mental health, and you know how it's helped in the anxiety space, depression. Some psychiatrists would rather argue that it does increase suicidal ideation.
That's right.
And suicidal thoughts.
That's
And
right.
Some would argue that, and some argue against it because some will prescribe it to help. So a lot of the information is still developing, and I don't think it's a well-funded clinical experience, obviously because legislation and everything. Do you foresee better funding to actually really get these peer-reviewed studies that could actually give us real data based on a legitimate data set of people?
I think this is me, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that based on research, a lot of the times they skew it so it benefits them because growing up in a West Indian culture, right? I remember when I was a kid, we had marijuana in the backyard. The marijuana trees was in my backyard, right? My uncle would, he had his special time.
Uncle Bindle.
Right? He would go and he would be like taking the leaves off. And I would be like, what is he doing? And my mother's like, oh, he's about to go smoke. We knew about that ritual early. Smoking weed was just part of what it was culturally, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people around us felt like that was therapeutic. However, now with the current marijuana that is being distributed, it's a lot more like concentrated and the quality it's a lot more intense. So yes, it can bring on psychosis. It can bring on, mental health symptoms like schizophrenia. You can even, you can experience
it does
schizophrenia.
Increase your chances, and it does intensify your. I think there's like I forget what the percentage is, but if you have the gene.
That's right, because genetically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
Raise my hand. Can
And
I say
that's
something?
Go ahead.
for sure.
This is just from like being in tune with weed, right?
Yeah.
This is real talk. Weed is recreational, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about cannabis and this and that. Big conversational pieces. But just trying to get high, bro. You know what I'm saying?
But don't you worry that it could cause some sort of like symptom that you're when you're using?
Yeah, I hear you. Listen.
You're changing your brain
Do you drink
to
soda?
some degree.
True. Too much of anything.
Do you eat white bread?
For sure.
You damn right
So-
about
All
that.
right.
Any type
we live
of
in
bread.
America. We do a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
That are
This
not
is
good.
true.
That are not good for us. Okay.
Yeah.
And That's not to say to make it right or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
It's recreational.
it's
It's
recreational,
beneficial.
and I just want to get high. Like I just want to have a good taste. Like, oh, this tastes good. It's
Yeah.
oh, it's bad for me. It's bad for me.
You do bring on a good point, because I think what's happening is a lot of times the people who are anti will talk about what the issues are, but what is the percentage of the times that happens when you think about?
Can I just say one more
Yeah.
thing? Cannabis, right?
Yeah.
Hemp. Let's go to hemp.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Hemp, the capabilities and the potential uses of hemp are endless.
Correct.
There's so many.
Therapeutic.
Endless.
Very therapeutic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the conversation about this is not just about, we're talking about just consuming cannabis,
Yeah.
but there's so many other grand attributes of
The plant.
hemp, of the plant,
Correct.
that I think we're missing the point of what it really is.
It's very medicinal.
And the hemp plant.
Not only that,
and
even the
hemp plant-
environment. But
and
go
the
ahead.
hemp plant, right? With access to it now, right? Mm-hmm. We can actually somehow obtain a business or some type of equity, you know what I'm saying, of generational wealth in the hemp business, period. It's not just about smoking weed and depression, because
Yeah.
if you start making money off of cannabis, right, your mental health is going to become better. You
Fair
understand
enough.
what I'm saying? Because now you're consuming your time and doing something that you want to do.
Okay.
There are multiple benefits. And I think sometimes when we think about risks, it's kind of like even speeding. You could crash and die. But a lot of times,
even like
you're not going
medical
to crash
versus
and die.
recreational, medical versus recreational,
Yeah, there
right?
is medical.
Medical. Now listen, sis. Let me tell you something, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is science.
Okay.
I'm smoking weed recreational. You're like, I'm smoking weed for
Medicinally.
Medicinal purposes.
medical, right? Mm-hmm.
Why you do your face like that?
Because I'm just saying though, because it's like it's a sassy like whatever, right? So you're like, but we're both gonna smoke it in joints. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're not even gonna include blunts. I don't even smoke joints, but I'm gonna roll it in a joint, and you're like, I'm gonna roll it in a joint. Mm-hmm. Do you know right there in that action, you have just broke the whole medicinal point of you even consuming cannabis?
How so?
Because when you light it, the joint, how are you gonna light it? With a lighter, right?
Yeah.
So now, when the flame is on the cannabis, you're taking it to a temperature where it creates carbon dioxide automatically. So consuming that, you're automatically
You're developing respiratory issues, right?
Or
whatever-
potential.
Possibly.
whatever carbon dioxide does to you.
This is true.
I'm just saying.
Got you.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this whole thing about medical and ailments and all that shit, it becomes a smokescreen to me and my mind of intelligence and common sense of what it really is.
For
Got
you,
it.
it's just as simple as, I just want to get high.
It's as simple as I want this experience to be what I want it to be after consuming as much cannabis as I can consume, from the bad weed to the so-called good weed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From the Reggie with sticks and seeds that you got to pick out. You know what I'm saying? To the Zaza, to everything.
What's your favorite?
My favorite is anything crossed with Skittles and anything crossed with lemon cherry gelato.
That's interesting.
What's
I have
the Zaza?
no idea what that
I keep
means.
hearing about it.
Zaza is most things crossed with gelato strains.
Ah.
Oh, so you do like the
So
Zaza
you do like the
then.
Zaza.
Yes.
Okay, good
People
to know.
do talk about it. So back to the question: do you think it will help if marijuana research was funded? Marijuana use research was more funded, or is it just more so people just want to get high?
just a
Leave it
waste
at that. You're doing too much.
You know, listen, man. Research and analytics is a business at the end of the
This
day.
is what
Yeah,
I'm
it
saying.
is.
Okay.
It is.
This is
So-
very accurate.
You know, if that's what it is to make the economy work, then so be it. But at the end of the day, roll it up, light it up, and smoke that shit. And if you have issues and you have problems, you know, one of the best things I could say is talk to someone.
Yeah.
Don't be quiet about your issues. Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Don't feel like your issues are you're the only person with issues. You know what I'm saying? Like you're alienated. Everyone, you know, especially in these times, you know.
Tell me a little bit about what you mean in these times. Like what sticks out for you?
I mean, we live in a time where social media is grand. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Especially maybe I'm speaking for myself. Maybe there's people who are watching and listening and be like, I'm not on social media. Mm-hmm. So this might not apply to you, but it applies to
The people
masses,
impacted. Yeah.
the people masses. And even though you
Yeah.
might not be on social media, you're
Yeah.
dealing with people who are on social media.
Yeah.
And what happens with social media is that right now especially, it makes you have this sense of like love for self, right?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have love for self, but not to a point where it's more love than we're giving to spiritual guidance as far as
Yeah.
giving something power over you.
That's a good way
The
to
love
look
for
at it.
that has to be actually more than it is for yourself. Then you can be in accordance to this morality code, and you won't be so by yourself and making decisions by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's so much bigger than you.
It's so much bigger than you,
Yeah.
and there is a guideline of format that you can follow to help your mental health. But people are so distracted and have been brainwashed and poisoned and systematically plagued that it's hard for them to tap into that. Like when people tell me that they're reading self-help books and stuff like that, I be mad, yo.
Why?
Because I'm like, yo, you're reading. I'm like, you're reading the wrong book, yo. You're reading the wrong book. They be like, what book am I supposed to be reading? I'm like, the Bible, stupid.
Why do you think
They're
that
like,
that's...
why? I'm like,
Yeah,
and this
why?
is not about teaching you. This is not about saying for you to believe in Jesus or anything like that. This is about stories that are old. These are old stories that are relevant today as far as the perception of how things play out. How they've always played out in government, through religion, and how they always come back to the
Yeah.
start. It is what it is. Human behavior is the same way.
That's an excellent point.
You know what I'm saying?
Excellent
It's about
point.
being distracted and not following these things that can move you from here to there as a protection. You know what I'm saying? And like in mental health, people be like, oh, things are changing so fast. It's like you must change with them to keep up. And like I was saying about social media, it's like everyone's on social media, you know, not everyone, but people on social media, they're trying to get their businesses, their images, whatever it is. No one wants to be looked upon as a lowly or like not relevant
Less than.
or less than.
Yeah.
This is your platform to be yourself, right?
Yeah.
So now you get caught up in yourself.
And that's dangerous.
And it's really dangerous because you start thinking it's all about you when it's not. It's about manifestation on a grander level, which is prayer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying for anybody to go pray and all this, but guess what? When you pray on large accords, it makes the manifestation bigger.
Absolutely.
That is an amazing
Absolutely.
note to like bring us home. And I love your spiritual journey. I'd love to talk to you more about it. I mean, I think your knowledge on this subject and even simplifying it as something being, I just want to get high and not overcomplicating it is such a different outlook. And I'm really excited to hear, you know, how this progresses and how your business, your business, how you've built an infrastructure to give people knowledge. I'm really excited to see how you continue to progress, and we really appreciate you being here
Thank
today.
you. I enjoyed being here.
Oh man, we'd love to have you back to just learn more. But it's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
We're excited to make sure we attend the next
Nice.
festival. You know what I mean?
It's coming up. I'm gonna keep you in tune. You know, my last closing words is just, you know, be real with yourself, be transparent. Don't be afraid to talk to someone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know,
Yep.
let them know what you're going through or how you feel. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of times a phrase comes to my mind, which is the most blunt phrase, which is snap out of it. You know, it's like, snap out of it, man.
Yeah.
Stop acting like you're the only one. Stop being selfish. Stop being a lover of self and thinking that your problems are bigger than the whole world and that you should burden someone else with your issues.
And people have space for you.
You know what I'm saying?
People have space.
And even the ones that don't, maybe, you know, and I'm not saying this to be condescending or be like in this space of telling someone to do something that I don't do myself. But, you know, as you should establish a relationship with something that's higher than yourself. And,
For sure.
And believe in something more than yourself because, you know, we were created. That's how I believe. That's how I'm able to be in a creator's space because I believe in creation. So, you know, as me tapping into my architecture of building things, that's how I like to keep it. I like to have open conversation, you know, about things that are progressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love that.
And it's all about, like I said, transparency and patience. Gotta be patient and wait for your time for it to roll out.
For it to manifest.
It has to manifest, especially if you're not instantly manifesting.
Correct.
Heaven is in the process.
You know?
Amen.
Heaven is in the process.
Experience is a great thing to manifest.
Yeah.
Having good experiences is an excellent thing to manifest. You don't have to want to manifest something specific like I want money or I want money to do this. It's manifesting great experiences.
For sure.
You never know what it'll be. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Surprises, you know.
It's all over. On that note, you all are loved. You know, find that support system. There's also like hotlines. There's like, you know, obviously places that you can go to get therapy.
We should post them on our page. Just all the different
We will.
resources.
Yes. But you are loved. There's so much more living that we all have to do. And so we'll see you next time.
Unofficial therapy. Kiki. Hey.
Woo!
Don't forget that. Or hit me later. Like, Slice sent me to suicide.
Okay. I don't know why I felt.
God and I met that dumb.
Oh my God. Thank you. Oh.